Coat season is officially here to stay for the next few months, and with that comes a lot of the same stylists and typical posts that are going to give the same tips and ideas about styling our shorter frames as petites. If you followed me for long enough, you know that I don't live by a rule book. As an artist who turned into a designer, turned into a stylist, I'm always asking the why behind every rule. Many people feel like this can just feel quite constraining just because we happen to be under 5'4". So I often don't echo what everybody else as a petite stylist is saying, because I think that the most important thing is this love of artistic expression and our taste that makes our outfits and our personal style come together really beautifully. So these rules and these tips are really great as a starting point, but once you know how to mold them and break them is when your style starts to really shine. So if you're like me, short woman, rule breaker, or just somebody who wants to look good in clothes without it being frustrating, here are 5 short girl myths that you can break about winter coats that I think you can still wear. Myth 1, you can't wear a coat that hits at the hips. I've personally mentioned this rule so many times before because it is the widest point on me as more of a pear shape. And on paper, yes, it's not the most flattering if you don't want to bring any attention there. But what about petites who have maybe narrow hips? So the reason that this rule is advised for all petites is because the most flattering and lengthening proportions to the eye is a 2/3 to 1/3 breakdown, not a 50-50 split like it generally is for coats that land at the hip. And as short women, we usually want to appear taller and slimmer as often as we can in clothing. So how can we still work around the style rule no matter our body type? First, when you're gonna wear this type of coat, I personally opt for a darker color underneath. That will de-emphasize things and make the coat just stand out really great. I especially do this with my pant choice. I'm actually doing that today with my blazer. Next, I also tend to bring emphasis around my face or my upper chest area, and that just brings the eye forward, so like upwards. So that's going to really help by wearing a hat or a necklace, a scarf, maybe a logo up top, something that can bring emphasis up top. Third, as a petite with short legs, I usually choose a shoe that's going to give me some sort of height. So a heel, just something so that I can elongate my lower half. And lastly, with this type of coat, then I don't want to add too much bulk underneath. That's going to make the coat sort of expand outward, which will create a wider and shorter appearance. Myth 2 is that you can't wear a coat that has sleeves that are too long. So the problem to avoid with this type of look as a petite, you don't want to look like you're drowning in a piece of clothing, basically ever. Most clothes do drown us. So if your sleeves are looking too long, it might just look like the piece itself is not fitting you right. But ideally, even when designers are sketching out a coat design, they will make even their tallest models have their sleeves long to where only their fingers are going to be sticking out. And that's just, in general, a really good length for a heavy coat. And that's why I often break this myth without even thinking about it. The first reason for this is that an extra long sleeve can make the arm look longer, and as a petite, the more lengthening the better, and that goes for your body or an appendage, like anything. And so just to try to make sure that my fingers are still visible at the bottom of the sleeve is my guide. This can also help to just make it more practical so our hands stay a little warmer in colder months. It might even look ironic if we can see the outfit underneath and the outfit fits you normally. So if the outfit fits you normally and the coat's oversized, that's okay, and that's just artistic expression like we were talking about earlier. I guess the main thing to do with this is to think about showing skin somewhere if it's not too cold where you live, or to have a defined high rise underneath, and that will lengthen out the legs as you are lengthening the arms. Myth 3, you can't wear a coat that has huge pockets. So there's 2 reasons why people generally say that huge pockets don't work as a petite. One, if you're small, then you need to keep your pockets small too. And the other reason for this is that if you're wanting to look slimmer, it's not good to sport those big pockets on the sides. As a petite who's been curvy on bottom her whole life, a big pocket isn't supposed to work for me at all. So how do I work around this rule? I just need to make sure that I'm not using the pockets in my coat to store everything. That would create a lot of bulk in that area. I want to be sure that I'm using my purse for that. Instead, I only want to use pockets for its main reason only, which is to keep my hands warm and maybe carry my phone. Also, I'm going to use pockets to lengthen the outfit even more visually because I have some control with my hands in my pockets of how the coat is flowing, what's showing underneath. And so my hands sort of do that to gather the material. Lastly, the opening of my pockets are often diagonal on my big pockets. And so diagonal lines are going to look amazing for looking both taller and slimmer. Myth 4, you can't wear a coat that's too oversized. Of course, there's going to be coats and sizes out there that are just ridiculous, just over the top, only to be ironic, but I always regret the coats that I buy that are either too small or run true to size. And this is because as a petite, I'm using a lot of layers, like thin layers, and you'll never be able to comfortably do that in a tight coat. And there are just countless pins that I've been adding for years, honestly, on cozy outfits that have a big coat and virtually everything else about the outfit is perfectly fitting. And that could be with a formal outfit, it could be with a casual outfit, anything will work here. And it's just so nice to have this oversized coat in addition to that. It just always works. You can wear them sort of like off the shoulder sometimes. You can add a scarf with it. Anything here is awesome. And it might even look like there's more to the story, like maybe you got it from somebody that you really loved. Maybe it's a boyfriend's coat. Actually, just the other day, I told this girl that I loved her coat, and she's like, "Thanks, it was my brother's." And I said to her, like, that makes it even better. And it really does, because then it feels like there's more to the story. And myth 5, you can't wear a coat that's extra long. I left this one for last because it is the myth of all myths. It's so generic and therefore unspecific. Some of the coats and the duster jackets that I've been able to wear have received the most compliments online and offline, like in person, people walking up and saying, "I love that coat. I love that outfit." What makes it work and why do people say not to do it? People say that it'll overwhelm and shorten the look of a person. And okay, I can see how that could be true if the material itself is bulky or the coat is really boxy. Maybe it has sharp shoulders, big arms. It also might have like a really sharp hemline straight across on the bottom. I think the key here is that you don't want to look like you're wearing your boyfriend's coat and he happens to be like this mobster from a cartoon. That's not the look that we're going to go for with this. So in order to look taller and slimmer in an outfit, you can always carry one color as far as you can stretch it for it to be lengthening. And a duster jacket or a long coat is going to do that perfectly. Remember that with long coats, you want to be able to layer thinly underneath. And so the coat can lay comfortably open. And that means that the material doesn't have to be boxy or thick in order to stay warm. And this just lets that fabric drape, and there's just so many other smaller tricks that you can do to have here to make it work. But essentially, the key with this is that in order to look tall and slim in a coat, it's okay if your coat is also long and slim. By the way, I changed my Instagram handle back to @DearlyBethany. So if you're looking for some outfit inspiration, be sure to follow me on Instagram. The link's always in the description.